Hello and welcome to a special edition of the Empowering Leaders podcast. Jeff Scott is the Vice President of Football Operations for the Philadelphia Eagles in the NFL. And Jeff has been very kind enough to join me only a couple of days out from Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans, where Jeff's team, the Philadelphia Eagles, take on the Kansas City Chiefs in what is the biggest one-day sporting event on the planet. First, I'd like to say thank you to our presenting partner, Victoria University, who are committed to creating a place where everyone feels they belong, opening doors to education for everyone. VU are here to support and empower you on your journey, whether you're taking your first step towards a dream, breaking new ground in your industry with further learning, or simply chasing your next win. And that is not unlike what Jeff Scott is planning to do in winning Super Bowl 59. Hey, Jeff, thank you so much. I know your time is precious. Tell us about the week as Vice President of Football Operations. How's it been for you?
First off, thank you, Luke. Thank you for having me. Happy to be here and do this. The week has been, for us, it's been good. I think this is a situation we're trying to approach it just like any other week. Of course, we all understand that it isn't, but I think in anything you do and our from top down in our organization, we really approach it as it's got to be normal process. You have to repeat the process we've been doing all season, come down to Sunday and focus on what we've got to do.
Jeff, only 2 years ago, Super Bowl 57, the same opponent, the Kansas City Chiefs. From an outsider's point of view, there's a great redemption story. Is that the language you use? Or as you said, is it just about getting the job done?
I think for us, the focus is really just going through our process and focusing on what we need to handle, control what we can control, and go forward with that. I think, obviously, there are a lot of narratives and things that can be out there, but that's not something we do. We specialize in just doing what we need to do internally, focus on ourselves, and go out there and handle our business.
Jeff, you're an outstanding quarterback in high school and college yourself before a back injury ended perhaps the dream of being a professional athlete. Have you found that football experience has helped you in your role now?
It's funny. I played quarterback in high school, and then I started as a quarterback in college, but I quickly moved over to the defensive side of the ball. I'm only 5'8", so sometimes seeing over the line was a little issue. Nowadays, that's not as big of an issue with the offenses that are run, but I played defense in college. I really think what happened for me is I got injured and had that back injury, and my defensive coordinator, position coach, Mead Clendaniel, he actually trained me to be a coach. I was kind of the veteran guy in the room, so I spent a lot of time with him learning how to evaluate things, how to look at the game from a different lens than you do as a player, and that definitely set the foundation for me going forward through through to this point in my career. So it's one of those things that one door closes, and the injury was something that it happens. It's the nature of our game, but it really opened the door for me down the line. I never knew that it would get here, but that definitely set the foundation for me.
Jeff, we hear that a lot on this podcast where something at the time that seems like a devastation, a career-ending injury, but once you get through that and experience it fully, on the other side, something maybe even greater. Has that been the case for you in your life when you've had these hurdles that have come up that when you find a way through, there's always something good?
Yeah, I think one of the things that you have to approach, and this is something I it was instilled in me as a child. My father actually was legally blind. He could see a little bit, but by definition, he couldn't see completely enough to ever drive a car or do kind of a lot of different things. And my grandmother told him that doesn't matter. You have to go through and do what you need to do in life. He eventually became a circuit court judge. He sat on the bench for years, and I would be amazed. His vision was never a deterrent for him. His other senses were heightened, which as a child growing up in his household was sometimes a little could catch you a little bit. His hearing was amazing, but but it's one of those things that you don't let those things define you. That's the reality of things. I got injured. I actually did. I came back and played my senior year, but it wasn't obviously it wasn't kind of the same. Um, but you never let those things define you. You really just focus on what's next and what do I need to do to overcome whatever hurdles in your way. I think those are opportunities more than things to kind of sit back and be concerned about.
Yeah, you mentioned your dad, Judge John W. Scott Jr., the first black judge in Fredericksburg, where you grew up, and he was a civil rights pioneer. And as you said, legally blind, all the
Yeah.
obstacles in his way. And your mother, Alda, was Stafford County's first female attorney. She was also the first black female full-time attorney in Virginia. Exceptional people on every level. Can you tell us a bit more about growing up in that household and the influence they had?
Yeah, no. And you learn to craft an argument very quickly in that household. If you couldn't, if you didn't have something spelled out and kind of flushed out your idea, it wasn't going anywhere. So I learned that very young. But I think one of the things that both of them instilled in me, and my mom still does to this day, is at the end of the day, you just keep pushing. You keep going. You always keep going forward. You never. It's not a time to ever feel sorry for yourself. You set a goal. You go for it. If you say you're going to do something, you do it. You stand up for what's right, and that's kind of some of the foundational principles that have really shaped my life, and hopefully, I'm going forward and passing along to my daughter.
Jeff, we've been really privileged to have you part of our Aleda Connect program. We curate groups of 5 to 6 different leaders around the globe from different backgrounds. You've collaborated with Tom Allen from Arsenal, Ash Hanson's an Australian footy legend and respected coach, Ben Northey, legendary conductor of the Melbourne Symphony Orchestra, Amanda White from the US Tennis Association, and doing great things. You've caught up with Andy Walsh from our community. Can you tell us about collaborating with leaders around the world in that Aleda Connect program, what it's meant for you?
It's been awesome. I was lucky. I was referred to the program from Daryl Franklin, old coworker of mine who's in a group, and obviously Matt LaFleur, who is in a group. So they were lucky enough to kind of mention me and push me for the program. It's been great. It's something I've really enjoyed. I think my group is fun. We've been together at this point. Feels like it feels like it's almost 2 years at this point. But it's been great. Like I think you talk about everybody's background being so different. Um, Amanda, like you talk about collaboration. Her entire job is kind of dependent on working with a million different people and helping bring something together, which is huge. Ben is I I never knew that you could learn so much from someone in a field that's so different. When he's talking about conducting and dealing with musicians, it's really the same kind of business we are dealing with athletes. And Ben has such great perspectives on things. Um, Ash, I love talking to Ash. Ash is so good at being able to motivate and kind of bring a perspective of how he coaches, and he's so aware, self-aware, and aware of situations that he's been a part of. And then Tom, I laugh. I think Tom's a machine. He that Arsenal program is you know, obviously I watched the All or Nothing, and I've kind of gotten into more soccer than I ever had before, but Tom's always about process and putting things together and new ideas, and just being able to share with that group and share in successes, share in challenges, hear perspectives of people who are like at the end of the day, what we're doing is very similar, but on the face of it, it probably nobody would make those connections. And it's been great for me uh, to self-reflect and analyze and go forward. So I've been very happy to be uh, in the program.
Yeah, Jeff, it's a wonderful description of what we see as this great coming together when inspiring people catch up and learn. And you just delved into your reflections so easily. Is that sort of curiosity part of you always searching to find a way to do things better in life? Is that seems like something that's a real passion of yours?
Yeah, no, I think anybody who's in a leadership position or wants to be in a leadership position, you need to constantly kind of be on the forefront of things. Uh, I joke, I've been lucky enough here with the Eagles organization from top down, from Mr. Laurie, our general manager Howie Roseman. He is all about pushing the envelope and going forward and trying to find the next and stay out in front of things. And he's been amazing at it. It's been awesome to kind of spend the last 4 years here learning from him and really pushing to kind of go the next. Let's find what the next thing is. Kind of never being satisfied. And I think curiosity is in us all. It's just sometimes you have to push yourself. That's what being a leader is, and I think that is something that I really strive to do.
Jeff, you spent 3 years with the Bank of America in a global risk management role back in another lifetime. Your experience in the corporate world, has that held you in good stead as a sporting exec?
Yeah, I actually it was an amazing experience. It's something I wouldn't trade for the world. I started in June of 2008, and then the economy had the downturn it had that fall, and it was while it was a very tough time. Again, it was an opportunity. It was something to learn. It was being thrust into situations that nobody had dealt with and being able to react and move and think on your feet. That was awesome. I joke all the time about one of the toughest conversations I ever had. I did a year in audit, and I led an audit on a subsidiary of Merrill Lynch when Bank of America purpose bought Merrill Lynch. And I had to sit down with the chief credit officer and go through audit issues. And he had been doing it as long as I had been alive at that point. Uh, but those are tough conversations that we all have to go through. So when I got, on this end, I joke that some of the tough conversations I had maybe the toughest one when I was 22 years old. So um, it was great experience, really, really challenged me but at the end of the day, I love football. Football had been a part of my life since I was 5 years old, and I wanted to get back to it. So, uh, Bank of America was a great opportunity, but I really wanted to get back into football.
We all are born different. As we grow, the experiences we have develop into outlooks uniquely our own, charting our life's course. No one sees an idea, opinion, or opportunity like you. And no one sees you like VU. Victoria University. Uniquely you.
Jeff, I hear you've got a great passion for developing people and the players in your environment at the Eagles. Can you tell us a bit about your philosophy on how you develop people to be their best?
I think one of the biggest things that a lot of times we forget is this is a people business. At the end of the day, ownership, people, coaches, players, people, front office, support staff, people, fans are people. We're in a people business. And in order to get the best out of people, I believe you need to build relationships, you need to build equity, and people need to understand that you're invested. I think you always can get the best out of someone when they feel you're invested in them. I joke a lot of times that people confuse two words that are usually used interchangeably as far as people talk about managing and people talk about leading. Well, you manage a process, you manage a project, you lead people, you try to influence and inspire people, motivate people. And I think that's something that for me, at the end of the day, is my focus if I'm dealing with players, if I'm dealing with other staff. The people who have been invested in my career have always made me be the best I am. So I try to be invested in others.
And Jeff, I hear about a legendary work ethic that you've got, and that comes with a bit of cost. I read, for 8 months of the year, every meal of the day is at work because you have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and you work through that. As you said, as a husband and a father to your beautiful daughter, how do you balance that work life?
I think it's obviously it's a challenge to balance for any of us. I think any professionals have work constraints and balancing that with your family life is hard. But I do think again we approach it as a family as an opportunity. Um, my wife and daughter are going to come down here and go to the Super Bowl. Like that's an amazing experience that you probably just don't get. So we try to lean into the experiences that you do get rather than focus on the time that you don't have. Uh, it requires a lot of work. I think everybody, again, any professional who's kind of climbing the ladder and going where they want to go, it's going to take work. I've never been afraid of that. My wife sometimes reminds me of that when we do have, our break after in the summer. That she's like, "You're not working. Like, let's focus on other things." But um, it's again, it's an opportunity. My daughter comes down on the field pregame of every game. I joke that she just thinks this is normal. So, those are the things that you get out of it. And you try to focus on those positives that you get rather than focus on what you miss. I couldn't do it without my wife. My wife is the head of the head of the household. She keeps things running. She has a career in her own right, and she's a former athlete as well. So we can definitely vibe on that space. But she does a great job of keeping me grounded, keeping me focused, and kind of keeping me locked in and allowing me to, when it's time to go to work, like to go.
So we're literally heading towards 48 hours out from Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans. Your opponents are chasing a three-peat, something that has never been done in the Super Bowl era. Patrick Mahomes is going to be a legend of the sport, their quarterback. You've got the Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift Super Bowl extravaganza happening again. You can't imagine more global interest in this event. It's the biggest event. Anyway, does it feel that way to you that this is maybe bigger than it's ever been, this Super Bowl?
I think the biggest focus for us is really trying to just keep the same process. Of course, everybody understands what it is. It's a big moment and a big opportunity. But again, the focus is on keeping things consistent and just kind of focusing in. It's a game just like the last game we played, and at the end of the day, you're still going to roll out and play football. And that's what we got to do.
So I'm curious, just as we are so close from such an event, and you keep talking about the process, but just to go into a little bit of detail, players have still got to have their tickets. They've got to have their accommodation. You're living away from home. Their families are in town, and they've got to be accommodated. Their meal preparation's got to be the same. I can only imagine the logistics that are on your schedule are enormous. Can you tell us about the sort of detail that you need to get right in the next couple of days?
I really think like organizationally, we've done an amazing job. This we have some of the best people in the world who have set things up and make it so that players and coaches can focus on what they need to do. I think that's all a part of this is really the biggest focus of anyone is to make it so that the players and coaches can really just lock in on what they need to do. So we have an amazing staff who's helped with tickets and dealing with friends and family issues. Our nutrition staff who's helping get all the meals, our training staff who's keeping things as normal as possible to make sure guys are, have whatever they need to be able to get ready. It's a big undertaking, but I think that's part of what you understand and being in a really top down, excellent organization is that everybody has to work together. Everybody has to be on the same page. And at the end of the day, if we all do our jobs, then it can make it as easy as possible for the rest of the group to function in normal process.
I have to ask you about a giant Australian from Western Sydney who stands 203 centimetres, 6'8" in the old, 166 kilos or 365 pounds. A giant of a man, Jordan Mailata, who's hoping to
Yes.
make some history from an Australian perspective. Tell us about him as a character and a teammate, and how big a role has he got to play.
Jordan is an unbelievable human being. We joke about it that he's enormous, he's athletic, um, he can sing, he's a great like just personality. Jordan really has huge bright spot for us, and it's I know obviously him being from Australia, that's a big thing. Matt jokes about it with me. But he is an awesome player. He's an awesome leader, but he's an awesome person. And I think he's done a very good job this year of really stepping in and being a heck of a leader for us. So we're excited. And I think, if he does, what he's been doing all year, we'll be in a great shape.
I know you're focused on the detail, but the
Yeah.
mind obviously wanders to this great success of what it could mean. And can you give us an insight into how special that would be for not only you but the wider team and the wider community that support the Eagles?
Everybody who gets in this business, you're not getting in it to not win a super. Like that's the goal of everybody. It's the ultimate goal, but at the end, again, we try to go piece by piece and focus on today rather than looking so far ahead. But it's amazing. The opportunity we have in front of us is awesome, and it would mean a heck of a lot to everybody in here. It would mean a heck of a lot to all of our fans. um, like I said, our coaches, our executives, our support staff, our players, ownership. It's a heck of an accomplishment, and it's something that's not promised. It's very hard to get to this moment, and it would definitely mean a lot. But again, it's great to look at that, but you know the focus is just kind of keeping it normal and not thinking about what's coming next, but thinking about what's right in front of you.
Jeff, you've got a great reputation as a leader of people and a great connector of people in everything you do. And it's been great to spend some time with you. And in the week that is Super Bowl 59 in your role, it's incredibly generous of you to take some time. Final question to you, Jeff. Who's been
Yeah.
the greatest leader in your life?
Luke, obviously, I've listened to the podcast a little bit, so I knew this one was coming.
Yeah.
And I mentioned my father earlier. I think he's one that was so influential to me. And one of the things that I'll never forget, people said my father passed when I was in college. And people talked about him being able to walk with kings but keep the common touch. And my father always listened. He was as cerebral as he could possibly be, which sometimes would frustrate people when they're trying to go back and forth with him. But he listened, he was measured, and it's something that I strive to do when I'm approached with anything. I really want to listen. I think the best leaders and listen. At the end of the day, you can't fix a problem that you don't know is there. So you have to listen to people to be able to understand what problems are on the horizon. Um, Being cerebral is, a skill. We are in a high pressure environment. I think, a lot of people in sport are, and you have to kind of never get too high, never get too low. So just seeing those things and growing up around that has been awesome for me. I reflect on it all the time. I try my best to emulate him. I'm not as cerebral as he is. I'm probably a little bit more fiery, but I try my best. As far as, my football career, I think, here I spoke about him earlier. Howie Roseman is an unbelievable general manager. He consistently is on the forefront of things, pushing us, kind of never being complacent. A guy who's not afraid to go outside of his comfort zone and find the answers wherever they may be. We have people from, from Wall Street to Broadway who are all in our staff, and those differing opinions and differing backgrounds all really help us kind of to move forward. So learning from him and him being a leader for us here, uh, early in my career, Mike Shanahan really was an unbelievable leader. He set the tone for, for my career. We obviously, you've had Matt on the podcast before, and we were in Washington together, and I know Sean's in a group as well, Sean McVay. So we were all in Washington together, and Coach Shanahan really set the course and kind of set the tone early in my career about how to approach things, how to work, really how to focus in. And he was so like he was really, really good to his people. And that's something that's never left me. So for me, that's something that I try to focus on because again, it's a people business. You can never forget that. You have to build relationships. People have to think you're invested in them to get the best out of them. So um, those would be probably I know I said three, but that's probably where I'd go.
Well, Jeff, I think people get a great insight into how well placed the Eagles are heading into the biggest event, as we've described many times. Having your
Yeah.
steady hand and your relationships and the way you connect with people is a great template for the team this weekend. We wish you all the best. It's
Thank
been
you,
a
Luke.
great pleasure to spend some time with you, Jeff, and thanks so much for sharing some of your
No,
wisdom today.
thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.